Boxing is back with the IBO World Light Heavyweight Championship. Can Suarez take the belt? Or will one of Britain's brightest prospects, Lyndon Arthur, seize victory? Big Fight Live, Arthur versus Suarez, Friday at 10 on Channel 5.
This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. What a week it's been. All right, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah. What do you think of the beard?
You seen Forrest Gump?
Do you mean Castaway?
No, Forrest Gump.
When he comes back from
the run.
A shrimp.
When he comes back from doing the run.
Yeah. I like it, but...
It's a strong beard, to be fair.
My mum told me it's got to go, and it's grey as well, but considering AJ Fight Week, going with a real short barnet, like 2 or 3 up the sides, maybe a little fade, is that what the kids do now? And getting rid of the beard completely. But you'll have to wait and see on Joshua Fight Week what Eddie's going to do with his style. Yeah, it's been a good week, mate. It was a good day yesterday. I know that's what you're going to get onto, and I enjoyed it. I want to say thank you to people for some kind words and some support over the last 24 hours. It's been nice.
I don't know what timeline you were looking at, mate, honestly.
What?
You had nice messages about it. Yeah?
Loads.
Who do you think won it? Come on. If there was people were joking about...
Genuinely, being there, I think it was a very compelling debate. I mean, there was a lot off camera on the breaks, like a little bit more personal stuff than what we heard on air, but he is very good. I mean, no one really goes on there and holds their own with him, let alone wins. So obviously to win was sensational. But, you know, that's what I do. And to get this victory, it means a lot. It means a lot for me. It means a lot for my team, my people, my fan base. And at the end of the day, you know, I went into that moment with a lot of people doubting me. A lot of people didn't believe I could be victorious. And as I said, to produce, you know, for the years of work and dedication, to produce the performance when it mattered, you know, in that moment, in front of the world, that's what the elite do. And, you know, when you're special, you're special. So, like I said, I just want to thank everybody that helped me get to that moment. And yesterday was a huge victory. No, I'm joking. I think that...
By the way, that last 90 seconds is why probably people think you're a wanker.
Yeah, but I am a wanker, aren't I? I mean, how long have we been doing this, right? We've established, what did I used to say? A prick. I'm a prick. Or whatever, wanker. I mean, I think even now, I have to accept that I am a wanker. You know, before it was like, people think I'm a prick, I'm a bit of a prick, but I'm not really. I just fully accept now that I am, really. But I am a good bloke. Like, I do think I'm good fun. And I do think most people would sit down with me and go, he's well all right, Eddie. But, you know, but I would also, we've said this for years, unquestionably I would watch these things and think, oh, what a knob. But a lot of it's tongue-in-cheek. Yesterday, I felt like he put me under good pressure. I put him under good pressure. He made some valid points. I made some valid points. The one thing that just, let's say, get under my skin a little bit is he is a very bright individual, right? A great talker. He's much more intelligent than me and knows much more about pretty much every subject in the world, but doesn't know anywhere near as much as me about boxing, rules, the regulations, the commissions, contracts, all this kind of stuff. So you can't just completely just overlook what I say, both opinions and factual. When you asked me about Tyson Fury against Alexander Usyk, I don't really want you to ask me about that, but you asked me about it and everyone says, oh, why is he talking about that, or what's his opinions? There isn't really, outside of the people negotiating that fight, there isn't anyone better qualified to talk about what is happening than me. I don't say that in an arrogant way. That's my field. It's what I do every day. It's what I live and breathe. So when he's telling me that I'm wrong about certain things, and I know for a fact I'm not, and when I'm telling him he's wrong about certain things, he just needs to acknowledge that a little bit more. But he's it's a great show. I mean, TalkSport have done such a good job. I mean, the numbers were off the scale. It's the biggest numbers I think they've ever had. There's 40,000 people watching live. It's a fucking radio station. Watching live. You know? And this is what I do. I bring numbers to the table. And I think, you know, I said to the guys at TalkSport, you know, the one thing that really aggravates me that I didn't do, and I know I should have done it because it was a bad mistake. I didn't get an appearance fee. You know, I should have got big money for that. Big money for delivering those numbers.
I'll bang that on pay-per-view, to be fair.
I tell you, how many buys? 10, 15,000?
Maybe more.
A rematch?
Eddie, there was a couple of points I just wanted to bring up from this.
You get criticised because you didn't ask.
Obviously, yeah. Obviously, I got hammered yesterday and I was on the plane home. Let me ask you, right. So, one of the talking points from yesterday was the contract situation regarding specifically Ben and Eubank about who has the power to pull, etc., the fight. Now, you stated on numerous times to his disagreement on this that you said that Chris Eubank Jr. has the right to terminate the contract, but then otherwise it's the board and not you. So my question to you on this is this specific to this contract or is this specific to all Matchroom contracts?
Well, firstly, that was a co-promotion. So that contract would differ to a standard Matchroom contract. But generally, and all contracts are different, the decision over whether the fight takes place is in relation to the sanctioning from the British Boxing Board of Control. And he made a good point, which was, okay, forget the fight contract. Do you not have a contract with a fighter where if something happens, you can terminate the agreement? And generally, it's still in line with the British Boxing Board of Control because they're the governing body for disciplinary matters. Does that make sense? So if you do something wrong, your licence will be removed or revoked, and therefore you cannot fight, and therefore the contract is void. So generally, the two work hand in hand. So in this situation, you give the opportunity, you know, you give the board the ruling, as they do, they oversee boxing in this country, and if they say, we are not sanctioning this fight, the contract is void, because there is a clause in the agreement that says if the British Boxing Board of Control do not sanction this fight, the fight cannot take place. Okay? So that covers you in that respect. I understand what Simon says, and there's past contracts that may have said different stuff. This is a co-promotional contract, and the board are the jurisdiction. So without the board's sanction, the fight can't take place. So whether, you know, I said to Simon, he said to me, will you look at your contracts? Maybe. But do you understand what I mean about the two working in hand? For example, if someone brings the sport into disrepute and gives me a reason to want to terminate that agreement, ultimately the board will terminate or will suspend a licence or will cancel a licence, and the two work hand in hand. So, you know, he said to me yesterday, are you trying to pass the buck? No, I'm just trying to say, when we got these results, we got them at the same time as the British Boxing Board of Control. We had conversations, and I keep saying it wasn't an easy decision for the British Boxing Board of Control, right? And also, as I said to Simon before, because Robert Smith has confirmed it to me previously around the Billy Joe Saunders case, forget the situation regarding that case. Even before any of that was made apparent, they do not acknowledge VADA testing. They only acknowledge UCAD testing. So when these results came in, it was a conversation between me and Robert to say, right, what are you going to do here? You don't acknowledge VADA testing. We've seen that with Billy Joe Saunders. So what are you going to do? Go through it. 5 weeks later, Simon says there was a cease and desist on the board. There wasn't a cease and desist on the board. This is from Conor Benn. He said there was one.
He said he'd asked Robert Smith that, and Robert Smith
he did. Well, I mean,
alluded to the fact that that could be true.
Alluded to there was no cease and desist or even a legal letter from Matchroom at all. Conor Benn is his own fighter. There is no cease and desist, as I believe, and have asked again today from Conor Benn. There was correspondence because they were asked to provide information. And I keep saying, it was a difficult decision from the board, and the board made the right decision. But what I'm trying to say is, if you want to criticise me for waiting 5 weeks to ultimately wait for the board's decision, The board don't really get asked why. The board will say, oh, because it was difficult and we had legal correspondence and stuff like that. Ultimately, the same people are saying if there's a failed test or two fails, you shouldn't sanction the fight. So I'm not trying to... I mean, I think the board didn't play it very well at all, but I also acknowledge it was a difficult decision because it's outside of their rules. And Conor Benn had passed all his UCAD tests as well. So I finished that meeting or interview yesterday thinking, it's good now, we won't talk about this again because I feel like we've just got it all out there. And now
reaction to the reaction, though. But Eddie, can you just give me an example of what fight situation regarding contract which you would have the power to pull that fight yourself contractually?
Sanction the British, but in an event, I mean, ultimately, I'll give you an example.
You should have the power, though. That's right, isn't it?
But the power normally lies hand in hand with the British Boxing Board of Control ruling. I'll give you an example. Derek Chisora slinging a table in that presser, right? I guess you could turn around and say, right, that's it, fight's off, me. Fight's off. By the way, very few fighters would want to give me the opportunity to cancel a fight. What happens if you're putting a fight together and all of a sudden, I mean, if you weren't financially stable, the tickets weren't selling and you were going to do your conkers on the show? I mean, you could also, it puts a fighter legally in a weak position that we have the right, at our discretion, if something happened that we felt was not in the best interest of Matchroom, that we could terminate an agreement. I mean, drug testing is another issue that, I agree with you, could be looked at.
Bring the sport into disrepute is a completely different thing.
Go back to it, I don't like bring Del Boy into it, but that's an example. Right, that's it. Del Boy's thrown a table, I'm not having that, fight's off. No, you give it to the British Boxing Board of Control. After that incident, the British Boxing Board of Control phoned me up and said, we may not sanction this fight because we want Derek Chisora to have a hearing. All of a sudden, he has the hearing. Now, in that moment, if the board decide not to sanction the fight, the contract is null and void. It's terminated. So that's what they're there for. They're there to handle disciplinary matters.
But they had it for 5 weeks, though, where you could have made a decision on your own in that 5 weeks, couldn't you?
But ultimately, legally, the fighters would say the board have to decide whether they sanction it. And that's what it comes down to. But I still feel like, in the instance, the fighters, the teams, everybody in this situation didn't really know what to do because in that situation, you need a hearing. I think that's probably where the board messed up more than anything. I think they should have had a hearing. They should have called an emergency hearing with all the facts and decided whether they were going to sanction the event and heard evidence from all sides. They asked for evidence, they got information. But again, how much longer are we going to talk about it? I've just done an hour and 40 minutes live by the original Rottweiler of apparently asking questions. And it's never...
Eddie, will this change your stance on how contracts are done, though, in the future?
All contracts...
No, but from what Simon Jordan was talking about and bringing up yesterday, will that have any impact?
In a disciplinary matter, I would much rather leave it to the governing body of the sport, who are designed to govern the sport from a regulatory and a disciplinary point of view, to decide whether a fight was got sanctioned, rather than me just deciding at my own will what I was going to do. Because and I don't even, certain, situations like we just mentioned earlier, I'm not even sure that certain fighters would agree to Matchroom having the right to terminate an agreement within certain situations. Now, specific situations, perhaps, but that's what the board are there to do. Are you going to sanction this fight? Yes or no? If you do, the fight goes ahead. But again, hindsight.
Just a couple more things. He also pointed out that he said that till this situation, not to do with WBC, we know their kind of standing on that regarding Conor Benn, but he believes that Conor Benn should be cleared in this country before having to fight anywhere. That's what he said, yes?
But you don't need to have a British Boxing Board of Control licence to fight around the world. So, no. Right now, in my opinion, I don't believe Conor Benn would get a fair hearing with the British Boxing Board of Control right now, in all honesty, because I've heard their comments, I've seen the public uproar. Conor Benn's lost the plot, he wants to sue the board, he's been hit with these fines that are not in relation to the results of the test, and I just can't see a balanced approach from either. What I said with Simon yesterday, which I stand by 100%, is I will be making an effort to get both of those two to sit down and try and go through the process to make sure he can fight in the UK. His next fight will be in June, and it will not be in the UK. And it will be announced in the next probably week, or maybe even less. And after that, I want to make sure that both sides drop the ego and we try and find a solution for him to fight in this country.
Do you think that we will find ourselves in a situation? I think I read some comments from Robert Smith not too long ago about VADA, adverse VADA findings being like compulsory, that UKAD are aligned with that as well.
I, again, stand by. VADA testing should be acknowledged by the British Boxing Board of Control. There is precedent and in the past confirmation that VADA testing is not acknowledged by the British Boxing Board of Control. Only UKAD testing under their rules, of which he passed every test. When I say that, it's not, oh, so he passed all those tests, so he should fight, should he? We shouldn't acknowledge the other one. No, I didn't say that. But from a precedence point of view, from a rules point of view, they do not. And they should. And also, again, people don't seem to be really bothered about this fact. We're paying for it. We, not the British Boxing Board of Control, not the governing bodies, Matchroom are paying for the testing for the fighters who ask for additional layers of testing. Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. asked for additional layers of drug testing around this fight. They knew they were signed up to the WBC testing program, they were signed up to UKAD testing, and both requested an additional layer of testing, which we paid for, by the way, right? It's great for the sport, but it has to be acknowledged. But in the past, it hasn't been, and that was one of the grey areas. Because on one hand, we don't know, we're not calling that fighter in for a hearing because we don't acknowledge it. That was what happened. Now they wanted to change that. I think they're right, but it doesn't. You know, it's a grey area.
Okay, I do appreciate we're a little bit pushed for time. So, all right, it's never a waste, mate. When it's talking to you,
numbers, yeah.
It's never a waste. But just the last one on this, you did make comment yesterday, and you've said this before, that you regretted that part of considering options, which you spoke about. But I mean, as hindsight's a wonderful thing.
There is a feeling, and Simon was 1,000,000% wrong on this point yesterday, that I looked for a way to try and make this fight happen. I think, although you weren't involved in the process, you know that I didn't. And when he says, you know, your dad gave you a tap on the shoulder and said, no, probably my dad was more likely to be more aggressive in that situation because it was a back against the wall mentality. We felt like we've just been fucked around for 5 weeks, and that was how I felt. I felt like things had been leaked to the media. I was fuming with the whole process, and I turned up to the workout, and half an hour before I'd got the news, and I walked straight in, and you and your merry men hit me with about 300 cameras in my face and said, fight's off, what are you going to do? And I said, no, it's not off. Hang on, wait a minute, we're going to look at this, I'm going to talk to CASSIUS, the board don't acknowledge VADA testing, blah, 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 blah. I didn't really know what to do in that situation, to be honest with you, if you want me to be brutally honest. And I was thinking, what the fuck's going on here? I've got fighters in the ring who are warming up. I've got the undercard all ready to fight. And I'm thinking, whoa, just been hit by a fucking AK-47. So, and then we left there at, I don't know, 2 or 3 o'clock. I went to the Wasserman office with Calla, Frank, everybody. We had a little bit of food and we sat down and we said, we cannot proceed. Yes, we could look at an injunction. I believe we would have won. 1,000,000% we can get another commission to sanction this fight. No, we're not doing it. And ultimately, we pulled the fight. And contractually, we had to pull the fight because the British Boxing Board of Control would not sanction the event. So in the event of it going ahead, we've actually need a new agreement because the board decided they would not sanction the event. Made the right decision, not knocking them. The process was unbelievably flawed and ended up putting us in a bad position with the blame going on me rather than other people in the process.
In regards to Conor Ben, are we any closer to learning who his opponent could be if he is fighting in the UAE on June the 3rd? Is it going to be Pacquiao? Is it going to be Chris Eubank Jr.? What can you tell us?
There are two people that are actively pushing the fight in Manny Pacquiao and Kell Brook. There is someone else who we're in negotiations with, which is Chris Eubank Jr. I want the Chris Eubank Jr. fight. I think it's a massive fight. I see these two going at each other every day in DMs, and it's vicious and horrible now. And I know as a promoter, it's going to make it a mega fight. But there's a lot of ill feeling and bad blood now. And despite Chris Eubank making more than double for that fight than he'd make to fight Liam Smith, he probably despises Conor Ben. So I don't know what's going to happen. But what I do know is we're focused on Conor's next fight, and it's not long. It's not long till we pull the trigger.
Will it be one of those three names?
Not necessarily. There is probably one or two Americans that have been put forward to us, which we're also considering.
But you told me before you had to deliver some absolute mega fucking fight on June the 3rd.
They are. I mean, all of those fights, even the American names, are big names. Big names. And yeah, it will be a mega fight on June 3rd.
Okay. Now, the ever-changing landscape of Fury and Usyk. So, Alex Krasik come out and said that it's off. Frank Warren's come out today on TalkSport and also on IFL and said that they're still trying to make the fight. I mean, you're an insider in boxing, Eddie. How are you reading this one?
Okay. So, look, can I just say, before I answer this question,
I've asked you.
Yeah, you've asked me, and this is just my opinion, right? Now, it's an educated opinion, but it cannot be factual because I'm not in those conversations. And my educated opinion is this. There are a lot of similarities between this process and what happened with AJ, okay? And I feel like in that process, we were asked to accept something that I believe Fury felt like we wouldn't accept, which was December the 3rd. AJ just came off the back of the Usyk fight in end of August, so first week of September, he wasn't even training. We asked for December 18th. They said, it's December 3rd or no fight. I said, no fight. I went and talked to AJ. He said, fuck it, let's do it, December 3rd. We then went back and said, it's on. And then from there, we saw the social media stuff and everything broke down. In this instance, I believe there is no way that Tyson Fury believed that Alexander Usyk would take 30%. Okay? You have to give Alexander Usyk unbelievable props for taking 30%. 60-40, I think, was the right split. But anyway, well done, Tyson Fury. By bluff or by genius, he got a great deal. Then, all of a sudden, it's like, he'll take it. Shit, okay. And then you go into the other points. Again, just from what I'm hearing and knowing the business, it sounds like the rematch split is the problem. Now, Tyson Fury says, I don't want a rematch. Throw a rematch out. Not true, in my opinion. Tyson Fury, Frank Warren, all of those people would want a rematch clause in a fight like this, in my opinion. Alexander Usyk would probably want one too, because it gives him two fights of magnitude. What is the split of the rematch? Is this? I think it's, yeah. So, you know, for example, the first fight with AJ, which was also 70-30 with Usyk actually, under the mandatory terms, I believe, the rematch was at 50-50.
Which is what Fury wants, reportedly,
yeah,
and Usyk wants it 70-30 in Usyk's favour.
Yes. But when you take a split that you feel is unfair, like 70-30, that's the move. You say, I'll take 70-30, but if I win, I want 70-30 in a rematch. I actually disagree with Alexander Usyk in that respect. I understand it because he shouldn't be taking 70-30 in the first place. But the rematch of a 70-30 fight is unusually reversed. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it would really emphasise that there is a significant A side in the first fight at 70-30. So you rarely swing it the other way and reverse the splits. Do you know what I'm saying? So I feel like 50-50, is probably not fair because of the first fight split, but 60-40 for Alexander Usyk would be very fair for the rematch. I think they might get there. I don't feel like it'll happen on April 29th, and I never have done. It's 5 weeks on Saturday. It's actually probably detrimental to the fight, it happening on April 29th, in all honesty. But you never know with Fury.
You're trying to put a show on April 29th, is that way?
I've got a show. No, I haven't really. But I feel like you're so devious that you think I would even say that to make sure they don't do the fight so I can run a show on April 29th. Jesus Christ.
You're a snake oil salesman, apparently, according to Simon Jordan.
Let me tell you something else. You're bang on, son. No, I reckon they'll get a deal done, actually. But I tell you something now. If they don't get a deal done, I want to sit down with George Warren and I want to make Tyson Fury against Anthony Joshua straight after the AJ Franklin fight on April the 1st. We have the terms agreed. Financially, the fight is twice as big for Tyson Fury as Alexander Usyk. And we would sign that fight now, subject to victory against Franklin. But all eyes on April 1st, because we need to see how he performs, and he needs to get that win.
We know you've already mentioned this before, regarding if that fight wasn't to materialise, that you'd be willing to sit down at the table. Shelley Finkel's also come out today and said that if this fight isn't to happen between Fury and Usyk, then Deontay Wilder...
That's his German brother.
Yeah, Deontay Wilder is available as well. So this could be an interesting mix if the fight doesn't take place.
Yeah, I mean, Deontay Wilder wants all kinds of fights. I mean, he's just gone out to Saudi to, you know, try and see what's out there, really. So he's looking for the big fights. Don't believe he beats Alexander Usyk at all. But I'd like to see it. I think it's a good fight. And, you know, Wilder is another guy that if AJ comes through April 1st, he should be looking to fight in 2023 as well. What
happened to them conversations? Because we know you attempted, I'm assuming, to try and make Wilder and Ruiz for your card on the 3rd.
I mean, we did. I think we had some good conversations with PBC, but he went elsewhere, Deontay Wilder, and he's just flying around the world, seeing what's out there. We actually asked Wilder to come to the AJ Franklin show and commentate on that, but he turned that down. And I think he said he's getting prepared for another fight, so I guess there'll be some news on that soon.
Okay, just a couple more, because I know you have to go, Edward. Yes, Lawrence Okolie, with some very choice words about yourself yesterday, which I'm sure you would have seen. Your response or reaction to that, mate?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what really causes those comments. Like, is someone telling these people what to say? Is someone filling their head with rubbish and delusion? Again, it's very unusual that people support me, but when Lawrence Okolie's story comes out, read the comments. I mean, everybody does, because I don't know. Sometimes I see those comments and I think, wow, what? So, I mean, he called me jealous. I don't know.
He called you malicious, jealous, bitter, and very vindictive.
Well, vindictive, okay. I mean, yeah, I mean, like, I'm a boxing promoter. I can't tell you that I'm a saint, but jealous of what? Jealous of Lawrence Okolie? I mean,
are you asking me? I don't know.
I presume so. I don't. Look, I don't. Simon Jordan said to me yesterday, you know, you talk very, you know, you talk in a certain way about a fighter once you're no longer representing him, obviously, but also at the same time, I've not criticised the tickets and the lack of appeal, and you know, so I'm not going to go there. But it would be really easy, and I see it all over social media about this weekend. But I'm not going to start digging the knife in about the show on Saturday and what's happened. But what I will do is defend my position of what I've done. And you can't just say, oh, bloody hell, Eddie bought him a 50-grand Rolex. Buying someone a Rolex doesn't in any way give a fair indication of how they've been treated over time. But it does give an indication of how I am in terms of my word. And when someone sent me a clip today of when I gave him that watch, and he went, you know what, you're a man of your word, you deliver everything you say, and every fighter will actually tell you the same. With Lawrence, I see those comments and I just look back and think, what did I do wrong for Lawrence Okoli? I gave him the perfect fights to build him. I boxed him on the biggest shows. You know, he boxed, and AJ done an amazing job for Lawrence Okoli. He boxed at Wembley, he boxed at Cardiff, at the Millennium Stadium, he boxed at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. I headlined him at the O2 twice, I think, more. He boxed at Wembley Arena, he boxed in Manchester. I mean, and he won the British, we got him a European title shot. I got him to #1 in the world. I got him a vacant world title fight. And this was all while I was under unbelievable criticism about his performances and about the entertainment that he was providing to fans. And I backed him on all those occasions. I never said, yeah, it was a boring performance, or, oh, he's got to do this. I said, look, he's a good fighter. He's jumping in above his levels. And there were times where I was watching him thinking, oh, God, what am I going to say now? But I back my own. I back my fighters. And I liked Lawrence Okoli a lot, and I'd always have his back. And when I promised him that watch, I didn't really want to give it to him when he won a world title. You never think about that at the time, but of course, I pay up and I give it to him. And I just don't know. I guess what he's talking about is me protecting my legal position around the situation, because I feel like we were disrespected after the job that we'd done. That's all. But maybe he's doing this for publicity this week for his fight. The most noise, but you laugh, right? This is what you do for a living, right? When you go and interview Lawrence Okoli at the press conference...
I hear what you mean.
Let's be real.
Right, go on.
Let's be real. Let's be really real, yeah? What on earth is going to get anyone interested about Okoli Light, the fight, right, or anything else in the career of Lawrence Okoli right now other than his dispute with Eddie Hearn? Answer the question. You won't, because you're a bit of a bitch sometimes.
No, I'm not being a bitch. I hear your point, but the ego on you...
You talk about ego, facts or not.
All right, you've got a point. Yes, the media are going to ask him, correct. Okay, we'll ask him about his situation with you, correct. But you shouldn't have to say that, to be fair.
Because this fact, yeah? The only thing that people are going to be interested in hearing about Lawrence Okoli this week is Eddie Hearn. And that is outrageous. The ego's outrageous. It's true. Ask yourself the question, what do you want to talk about? The challenge of the New Zealander David Light in the fight? Do you want to talk about a potential matchup with someone else that you know is just not going to be a great fight? So maybe, what I'm getting at here, the original point is maybe people in the team have gone, listen, you need to ram it down Eddie Hearn this week. That's how we're going to drive this fight. Let's make some noise. So, every interview, you will see at the press conference, you won't see Lawrence Okoli going, I'm not going to talk about Eddie Hearn. And I'll ask you this.
Boxing's not this cynical, is it, Eddie?
I'll ask you this. You're the fucking worst. I'll ask you this.
The answer's yes.
Yeah, it is. Right. A interview with Lawrence Okoli after that press conference this week, not to mention Eddie Hearn, views, about 2,000. Eddie Hearn's a fucking prick on one of your... titles, yeah? 100,000. What's the common denominator? As I said before, moi! Simon Jordan liked that when he told me. Anyway, but I'm not being vindicated. I'm just saying, maybe that's a strategy, a plan this week. But going back to the job that I'd done, I thought I'd done a great job for Lawrence, honestly. Really good. Lawrence has the same lawyer and management as Lawrence Okoli. As Joshua Buatsi. Right? The similarities are unbelievable in the whole situation. Two guys that I've always got on with really well. Really well. But such is life. Right,
2 more questions and we're done. Edward, obviously I spent a bit of time with Gerald Miller last week, and I know a couple of people have asked you about questions. Am I silly or naive into thinking that a Joshua Miller fight is still a big fight?
It's a big fight. Yeah. Look, firstly, as I've said before 1,000,000 times, Jarrell Miller took money from me, from us, as an advance payment for that fight, and never returned it. Okay? First major problem. Now, to be fair to him, he's reached out recently and said, look, I plan to repay some of that, and it's been like 5 years or 4 years or whatever it is, right? Number one. Number two is I don't like what happened. And I like Jarrell Miller. And like, I don't want to go backwards and forwards. Again, another one that uses my name to just like try and get some momentum. I'm sure he feels hard done by with what was injected into his system for that fight. I wish him all the best, honestly. Will we ever make an AJ Miller fight? I guess you can never say never, but absolutely not on the radar right now at all.
Okay. I saw O'Hara Davies tweeting you some stuff, and I know he did an interview, which I haven't actually watched. I've got the gist of what was in that interview about a running at Brentwood Amateur Boxing Club. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I was picking my daughter up from Brentwood Amateur Boxing Club, and there was a show there, I think, and I walked in the Brentwood Centre, and I saw O'Hara. I haven't seen him for 6 years, and I just walked straight past him, and I said, "How you doing, OD?" And he went, "What?" And I went, "Yeah," and I walked off. Got my daughter from the amateur club and went home. And then he posted last night saying, "Yeah, I saw him, and I was going to say to him this and that, and look at me now, bitch," and stuff like that. I was right in front of him to say it. I just literally walked through past the Brentwood Centre to the amateur club, and yeah, that was it. So I haven't seen OD for a lot. I don't know. I don't like falling out with people. I'm genuinely pleased. Actually, I was really close after the Ritson fight to actually sending him a message and just saying, "Well done, mate. Like, I think you've done really well." Because, with his career, it would have been quite easy for him to fizzle out. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, after a defeat or two. But I feel like he's stuck at it, done well. And I'm genuinely pleased for him. I think he's done really well to win that fight. I think he's in a good position. I hope he gets a world title shot. I've got no, but unfortunately, I guess the feeling's not mutual, but say la vie.
Last one. Do you know this narrative that all fighters are leaving you and DAZN and all of them?
And they go, Lawrence Okoli, well, not quite, but we had our dispute. Joshua Boatsy, right? Who else? There's a difference. No, Alan Babbage, we lost a purse bid for Alan Babbage. His fight is on April 22nd. The Polish promoter who won the purse bid came to me and said, "Do you want to air it on DAZN?" And I said, "I can't, because we got a massive show with Joe Caldina that night." So they sold the rights to Sky. So you do realise that as a business, you have to make a decision regarding the value of a fighter and if you want to stay in business with that fighter. Sometimes you lose a fighter that you don't want to lose. Other times you lose a fighter that actually, when you look at the financials and the draw of that fighter and the interest of the fighter, you start sitting there in the bath one night in the bubbles and go, "What a touch I've had." But, we've had to make those decisions over the last... And there hasn't really been a fighter that, I don't mean this in a rude way, that we've lost or let go, that we've sat as a team and gone, "Oh no," because we've either got them into a position where things haven't happened or whatever. And someone said to me yesterday, you seem to only really have good relationships and look after the fighters that actually sell tickets and do big numbers on TV. I was like, yeah, you're probably right, to be fair, because, of course, you are going to have closer relationships with the fighters that are more successful, that are driving numbers. It's still our job to take them on the way. But when a fighter sits at a press conference and says, "Oh, I can't believe I'm on Sky." It's like, you've been on Sky for your whole career, other than one fight or two fights. Nothing's changed. And by the way, we're on Sky. And if you haven't...
429.
This is so important, right? This is so important. This is unbelievable what has happened. Unbelievable. DAZN have pulled the power move of the year, Game Changed, on the Sky platform, right? They're not on Sky though. They don't have a channel. You can't just go on and press your remote and 401 or 429. Yes, you can. You go on there and you press 429 and you can watch the most accessible boxing platform in the world. In fact, if you don't want to watch it on Sky, you can watch it on your mobile, on your handset. on your laptop TV or on your smart TV at home via the app. But now, if you're perhaps a little bit older, maybe like myself, maybe you included, and you want to watch it in a more traditional fashion on Sky, you can. DAZN and Matchroom shows are on Sky as well, 429. Now, to get this through in time for the AJ fight, because we know there's a lot of Sky customers that have watched AJ in every fight of his career, now you can only watch him on DAZN, well, and Sky. You have to, the tech was put in place that it only applied to flexible pass holders or new subscribers. But, wait for it, you cheeky monkey, wait for it. No, this is where everybody came back, and rightfully so, and we knew this would be a problem. The demand from subscribers to say, whoa, 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 hang on a minute. I've had DAZN from day one. I've been a lot, and now you're telling me I can't watch via Sky. I may not, but I want the option, like new subscribers. They were quite right to do it. DAZN's tech people go to work, and what do? They make it happen. But this is the important part, and I have to double check this, I'm pretty sure. Existing DAZN subscribers, you need to register for this, I believe, by Sunday, the close of play this Sunday, okay? Now, if I'm wrong on that, Koo, we'll put up a little, don't know if you've got the tech ability to do that, a little strap to say he's wrong.
You've got to tell me soon, because I want to get this fucking thing out, mate.
All right, I'm 99.9% correct on this, so I'm
15 minutes till I get home.
Please go now, no excuses, you've got plenty of time, go in there, register, and you can watch at no extra cost the #1 boxing platform in the world via the Sky platform also. It's incredible for our fighters, and we know that DAZN is a global platform, okay? So the viewership globally dwarfs every other promotional company in the world, but now even better, you've also got access on Sky. Please get it done.
I never had a problem with the DAZN thing. The app's on my telly. I know where the app is. I go into it, but I'm so happy it's on the Sky thing. So happy.
That is the future, what you've said. But I understand as well, not everybody has got up-to-date smart TVs, and some people, the more traditional, look, I'm not, I like to watch it on the phone, but I don't know, my old man, he's over the moon because he sits there, you know, he wants to sit back, and I said to him, put it on your TV. He's like, oh, what? So I went round there the other day and actually showed him, and now he's got it on his TV, but he still want to watch it on Sky.
You did a promo of that.
Yeah, I know. It was a bit cringe, wasn't it? Anyway, can I go now? I've got to have a run.
All right, Eddie Hearn.
It's 4 o'clock.
Mate, we were scheduled for 4 o'clock. You're 3 minutes early. See what I did there? Yeah. Right, see you next week.
Get ready. The return of Anthony Joshua at the O2 Arena. And genuinely, thank you for the comments yesterday. I know we'll probably return to standard practice after this interview. I love you all. Get behind AJ next week. Let's fucking have it.
Because I refuse to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day,